Today on the Reluctantly podcast, we visit Hansen Distillery on 111th Avenue, right here in Edmonton, as we get set for World Whisky Day on May 16th.
Reluctantly.
This podcast reluctantly sponsored by ThompsonMortgages.com. If you are set to renew your mortgage in 2026, reach out to Thompson Mortgages first. TimberBuiltHomes.ca. Homes and cottages, recreational dwellings, and more at TimberBuiltHomes.ca. Concept Clothing and Culture. Amazing custom-made clothes for men and for women at CONXEPPT.com. And Wendy Campbell, realtor at blackmorerealestate.ca. If you would like to list your home, or if you're searching for your forever home, email Wendy at blackmorerealestate.ca. WENDE at blackmorerealestate.ca.
Reluctantly.
March 16th is going to be World Whisky Day, and what better place to celebrate than at Hansen Distillery, one of the distillery jewels in the province of Alberta, the country of Canada, and especially the city of Edmonton on 111th Avenue out in the West End. Kris Sustrik is my guest today. Kris the Whiskey Maker, is that still your Instagram handle, or did you shut that down? I was looking for it the other day.
You know what? Actually, I spent too much time on social media, so I got off the Instagram is actually what happened.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
Too much time on social media. I know it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Should we?
Oh, that's okay. Hey, you can't talk about whiskey and not try a little whiskey,
That's
right?
true. That's true. You have to do that.
I'm very proud of this whiskey, so I like to share it every time I can. We're drinking this 7-year today, so.
So, World Whisky Day, we'll get into it. We'll talk about all of the other products that Hansen Distillery manufactures, fabricates, all of the stuff that you do, all of the specialty stuff for different times of the season. So we'll get into that. But the 3, 5, and 7-year whiskeys, I know, has been like a baby, the pet project, the pride and joy of Hansen Distillery, and you in particular, with the history of Hansen Distillery and what you've been able to accomplish in the short time that Hansen Distillery has been in this location. It's just 10 years now.
10 years, yep.
I've been fortunate enough to spend a lot of time here at Hansen Distillery, putting stuff in bottles, putting stuff in tanks, creating things, apple pie moonshine, and all kinds of nifty stuff. Bottling, putting the stickers on, putting the caps in, putting the labels on, and
maybe a small fire at one time.
There was a small
that was a good one.
Small fire at one time, yes. So we've had a good long history, but the 10 years that Hansen Distillery has been on 111th Avenue here is just a small portion of the actual time that Hansen Distillery has been in existence. I mean, it's a decade for the business, but it's a long history.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. So it wouldn't be the Hansen Distillery, it'd be the Hansen family, actually, because the Hansens go back over 100 years. So I'm married to a 3rd-generation moonshiner, which is my wife, Shana Hansen. And it stems back all the way back to her great-grandfather and grandmother, Carl and Amanda Hansen. They came from the States in the early 1900s. They lived through the Prohibition days. And if you couldn't have anything for a nip, you had to make it yourself. So that's how it all started. I was with them as the original moonshiners of the Hansen family.
So they came up from kind of Idaho, sort of Dakota.
Yeah, South Dakota. Yep, correct. Okay. Yep.
All right. And then, like you said, Shana, 3rd generation. How, as someone who's married into the distilling clan, as it were,
yep.
How fortunate do you feel that because your background is welding, engineering, and now you're a master distiller and creator of these fine spirits.
Yep. So from Shana's great-grandfather and grandmother, it got passed on to her grandma and grandpa, which are Bud and Laura. I met them, I can't even tell you how many years it was ago now, but one of the first years I started dating Shana, she took me out to the island to meet her grandma and grandpa. And I didn't actually know much about moonshine. I've heard it before, but didn't really know. And I was drinking cocktails with her grandma on the deck all afternoon. And next thing you know, I was inebriated beyond functioning. And I believe I slept on her living room floor or under the coffee table, maybe, for the first time I met her grandma and grandpa. Her grandma was feeding me moonshine, which I didn't know, which is a little bit higher alcohol percentage than your average vodka. So that was my first taste of moonshine. And the next morning I woke up, I was like, what happened here? Grandma's like, well, I make my own stuff. So I was intrigued. Grandma took me out to her shed in the back, and I got to see the little still that she was running there. And they didn't do it to sell it or anything. They just did it because they love making alcohol. It's just in the blood of the Hansens. And I got the itch for it right there.
So you talk about the early 1900s, so it's like 125 years, the legacy of the Hansen family. Was there something beyond that, like something that came, like, because when you hear about moonshine, you think about the Carolinas, you think about East Virginia, and you know that sort of area where there was the Hatfields and McCoys, and you know, making moonshine, and Roscoe P. Coltrane, Dukes of Hazzard, and all that stuff, Uncle Jesse and whatnot. Is it go back even further, or
I don't, that's a great question. I don't really know. I've only ever asked about from where it originated from. So I'm assuming somebody had to show them how to do it, or they learned it on their own. I'm not quite sure. We'd have to find the answer out to that one. But as far as I know, I think they tried to figure out how to make it on their own, and that's how it all started.
When people start, and I know, well, my dad did it, and friends of my son did it. It's been happening for decades/centuries, where people just think, "Yeah, I'm going to start making my own beer." The same sort of thing happens when all of a sudden somebody gets a still. I mean, one of the things that's most prominent in my mind is the 4077, the Swamp on MASH. They had a still in their tent. And that was the first time I ever saw something like that. And the fermentation and all of the things, does it go as far back as like the monks with wine, like centuries, or is it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It goes way, way back to fermenting from grains, to fruits, to adding sugars into fermenting. I don't even know the actual date that somebody first figured out that if you ferment it and then you distilled it, it would become an amazing elixir. I don't know who did that originally.
When you first started doing it, and I think back, just my dad would make beer, put it underneath the steps, and sometimes it was okay, and sometimes it wasn't. Was that the same sort of beginning process for you?
Oh,
like at home sort of thing.
Yeah, so that's funny you say that. So after I came back from meeting Grandma and Grandpa, I went to my future father-in-law, Donnie. He's the third generation, which is Bud and Laura's son. And I said, "Hey, Grandma, show me this still." And he's like, "Oh, well, welcome to the family." So he finally took me in, and Donnie brought his equipment over to my garage. And I started using his stuff and playing around. And then he wasn't always there on the days off, but I would talk to him, and I'd say, "Oh, I'm doing this," and he would kind of giggle a little bit. And I thought, well, okay, well, we'll see. So I didn't realize that when you make gin at home, if you use the same still that you make whiskey in, the next time you go to make whiskey, your whiskey will taste like gin. So I learned that the hard way. So there was lots of trial and error with different things. And then I like to expand from, they had a certain set way that they did things. And then I like to step out and try different things. And Donnie let me mess up a few times, and then said, "Okay, here's the basics. Let's get you on the basics." So it was a trial and error, fun run with Donnie. Unfortunately, we lost him a few years ago, but I spent many hours making moonshine and drinking moonshine with him. And I just fell in love with the art of making alcohol.
Probably a lot of times just sitting in a garage or sitting in a basement or sitting on a deck or something like that, doing the same sort of thing, just chatting with them before we lost them, and just looking at it and saying, what if we blah? What if we this? It's always ideas that come around. That's part of the thing that is developed into the process of making the seasonal spirits and liqueurs and all of the things that go on top of the other products, aside from the 3, 5, and 7 year whiskeys.
100%, yes. Having people sitting at the bar, "Oh, hey, what if we added a little bit of lime or something?" Just ideas like that pop out, and then I'll go. I get called the mad scientist every once in a while because I like to just take and play with things and experiment and see where it goes. And that's part of the art, I guess.
Were there any times when you were sitting there with grandma or father-in-law where some of the stuff came out from under the cellar or under the stairs and you had a sip and you thought immediately of contacting Gene Simmons to see if he could use it for his fire-breathing stuff because it was just something that you couldn't consume?
Well, maybe if I made it, but from the history of the Hansens, from grandma's stuff and Donnie's stuff, they always made supreme stuff. And I mean, they had how many years of experience before I could get into it, right? I mean, like when I first started making gin for Hansen, I tell people that I'm still burning gin in my lawnmower. I made a bunch of bad gin because it was just trial and error. I didn't know. Like I learned distilling in school, but until you actually have your still and you know exactly how much botanicals of everything to make. I made gin that tasted like Sambuca for a while, and I realized I was putting way too much star anise in, and so all trial and error.
So gin that tasted Sambuca, whiskey that tasted like gin.
Oh yeah, I've made a few mistakes in my life, but hey, that's how we learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm just thinking about the thing when you have the mistakes. You're talking about burning gin in your lawnmower. It just made me think of a Gene Simmons video I saw on social media the other day where he's got the mouthful of stuff and the sword that's on fire and he spits into it and makes the fire go.
Yep.
Everybody in the fire. What do you know what he uses for that? Is it high level alcohol, butane, what kerosene?
Yeah, I'm guessing he's probably just using high proof alcohol in his mouth. Probably,
okay.
Yeah.
So would something like, because that's got to be flammable, even though it's in his mouth at some point. How flammable is anything during the process of making whiskey from start to finish? Because I know as you start going through the process, there's certain levels of burning off and condensate and evaporation and so on, and high alcohol level. Is there any ever danger of just a big boom?
Well, not from a pressure, but alcohol, when we're distilling, we can get up to 96% alcohol or 192 proof, which is very, very flammable. So yes, absolutely. During the whole process, we could have a fire. There is no pressure in a distillation system unless you have some troubles where you're plugging it up. So you'd never have a really boom pop, but you can catch stuff on fire 100%.
Mm-hmm. I remember skiing with the downhill riders, and I don't know where it came from or if it was homemade or what the deal was, but somehow somebody would end up with Everclear on the bus on the way to the mountains.
Yep.
Is there any similarities between Everclear and moonshine and whiskey? Is it part of the process?
Everclear is just corn alcohol. It's just really cheap because it's just mass produced, but it's up there. I think Everclear is 190 proof or something like that. Yeah, it's up there. So the higher the percentage of the alcohol, the harder it hits you, the worse you feel the next day.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So here we have the 5 and the 7 year. I know there's a bottle of 3 year in a museum. Is that true?
That's correct. Yes. I guess I was the lucky enough guy to be the very first whiskey producer in Edmonton legally, I guess, in all of history. I'm sure people made whiskey before I did in Edmonton, but it wasn't as a distillery or illegal. So early 2020, I had whiskey that had aged in 3 years into a barrel, which is the law to be Canadian whiskey. And we bottled it up, and I gave it to the mayor at the time, and he put it in the Edmonton City History Museum archives. I actually haven't seen it since I gave it to him, so I don't know, but that's where supposedly it's sitting.
So that whiskey was 3 years old in 2020, so now it's 9 years old?
It is, but it doesn't age anymore once it goes into glass.
I was going to say, is there a difference between aging in a bottle and aging in the barrel?
Yes. So whiskey only gets aged for statements on bottles if it's in a barrel.
So wine can still age in a bottle. Is that true?
That is true, yes. Wine gets a little bit older in the bottle for a little while.
Okay, but whiskey doesn't.
Whiskey does not.
No. It just sits there and is delicious.
Yeah.
So you have your 3, you have your 5, you have your 7 year. This has been a process that you go on, and there are 365 days in a year. You can't wish away a day. You know, it's bad to wish away your days, hoping that you can get to 3, 5, 7. I guess the next step is a 10 year. Do you have a 10 year whiskey on the go?
There's 10-year whiskeys that are getting very close, yes. I do have some specialty finished stuff that I'm going to release probably later on this year. I think actually, you know what, maybe on World Whisky Day, I might actually open up a cask of some 7-year that's finishing off in a sherry barrel and let everybody taste it just for fun.
When you set out to, and the reason I ask about this is because I know you have a barrel for your kids.
4, actually.
Oh, you have 4?
Like a 4, yeah. Yes.
Okay. So your kids who are both, neither one of them is even 7 yet.
He's 6, going to be 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, so because you've had both kids since Hansen Distillery opened up.
Correct.
Here in the West End. What was the process of barreling spirits, barreling whiskey when your kids were born? Tell me the story behind that.
So about my kids' barrels?
Yeah.
So I had been making whiskey for a while, and I wanted to do something really special for my kids. Lots of kids get their first car when they're 16 or 18 and stuff like that. And I thought, what can I do different here? So I decided to actually fill up whiskey barrels on the day they were born. Now, technically, I didn't actually put the liquid in the barrel because I was at the hospital with my wife, like I was supposed to be, right?
Of course you were.
Yeah.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. Yeah, yeah. But I got 2 barrels, Brock's barrels. My oldest boy, Brock, is my son, Brock, is he's got 2 ex-bourbon barrels from one of my favorite bourbons, which is Four Roses out of Kentucky. I really like that bourbon. And then my daughter, Waylon, she has brand new barrels, but I put all single malt whiskey in there. And those are both good. All 4 of those barrels are going to age until my children are 18. And then on their 18th birthday, we'll crack them, bottle them. Hopefully they invest them and don't just drink them all themselves. But that's the goal. So they'll have the first 18-year-old barrels out of the distillery.
So when you say hopefully they'll invest them,
hopefully they bottle them up and want to share them and sell them with everybody else.
Okay.
Not just keep all the whiskey to themselves, but it's technically theirs, so they can decide.
Yeah, that's going to be something. So just over 11 years now for Brock, a little longer for Waylon. And does anybody else? There are other craft distilleries in the Edmonton area. Does anybody else even have something like an 18-year going on the go right now that you're aware of?
I don't know. I really don't know. I'm assuming people are going to be keeping whiskeys but there's only a couple in Edmonton. One of them actually shut down, so they don't have whiskey anymore. And the other one that I know of just opened up a little while ago, so they probably don't even have that old of whiskey. So if you want to get nice aged whiskey, I guess you got to come to Hansen Distillery.
And, well, you can come to Hansen Distillery on May 16th, 2026, as we celebrate World Whisky Day.
Let me tell you about my mortgage broker for a moment. Mike at ThompsonMortgages.com has been client-focused for over 17 years. They take care of all the financial components of your real estate purchase so that you can concentrate on finding the perfect home. Whether you're a first-time buyer or renewing like so many other people in 2026, let ThompsonMortgages.com work for you. They find the lender, and it costs you nothing for their services. The lender pays. Download the app and get pre-approved in 60 seconds. ThompsonMortgages.com, 780-413-6743. Tell them you heard about them on the Reluctantly podcast.
Reluctantly.
I'd like to take a moment to tell you how excited I am to welcome a new partner on the Reluctantly podcast. It's Timber Built Homes. Their focus is timber homes and cottages, year-round living, recreational dwellings, and beyond that, pavilions, barns, and freestanding timber-built offices. Complete information is available at timberbuilthomes.ca, and it's also where you'll learn about Timberbuilt's Home in a Box. It's fantastic. An entire home package shipped in a sea can anywhere in the world right to your build site. See the floor plans, sample builds, photo gallery, and most important, the prices right on their website, timberbuilthomes.ca. And please let them know that you heard about them on the Reluctantly podcast.
The whiskey is one thing. The whiskey is the process. But you have other products. You have all kinds of things. Like I said, the seasonal stuff. You have cherry whiskey. You have a Ring of Fire, which has got a little heat to it. You've got Secret Stash with Troubled Gin. the vodka and everything. Tell me the difference between making whiskey and making a vodka, a gin, or one of your creamy bottles.
Okay. So all of the base alcohol starts off as a grain. Depending on what you're going to make, you'll use different grains. So I'm a rye whiskey kind of guy. Rye is Alberta. It screams Alberta. We make the best rye, or we grow the best rye in the world in Alberta. So I like to use rye for our whiskey. If we're going to make vodka or gin or any of the cream liqueurs, we can use different grains that aren't so flavorful as the rye. The rye has a really predominant spiciness to it of the grain. So if we're going to make vodka, we could use wheat or triticale, a different grain that we use. They all get distilled as a base alcohol. Vodka essentially goes to distill a couple times to get higher percentage off of it. And then it gets filtered into through carbon, and becomes a vodka. That's essentially how vodka is made. If you're going to make gin, you're essentially taking the vodka base that you had, and then you're running it through the still with botanicals. So it's going to add juniper and coriander and a bunch of different botanicals to add flavor onto that. So gin is essentially a flavored vodka. If we're going to make a cream liqueur, we buy big, huge totes of cream, and then we add our alcohol to it, and then we add real flavors. Hansen Distillery has been proud to be using real flavors for as long as I can remember. I don't like to use the fake watermelon flavors and stuff like that. So we will take our creams, we'll add our special concoction that we make, which we do a lot of cooking in the back to get all these wonderful flavors. And then we'll add that to our creams. Cherry whiskey, for example, I take straight whiskey just like this, and I add real cherry juice to it. That's essentially
not cough drops.
Not cough drops. No. When I was younger, I remember having like 18, 19. I remember drinking cherry whiskey that was kind of like a cough syrup back in the day, and I thought, we should make one that actually tastes like whiskey and have some cherry flavor to it. So, yeah, we get BC sour cherry or sweet cherries, and we use Alberta sour cherries, and we add that to it.
With the vodka, from beginning to bottle, how many days / weeks?
Vodka is actually pretty quick. So we're a 7-day fermentation. I could distill technically the next day, and we could filter and bottle the day after that. So 9 days, I could have a bottle of vodka.
But when you're talking about whiskey, you mentioned before, minimum 3 years in a barrel.
Yes.
Aged.
Yes. So the 9 days before, or 8 days before, to make the spirit, and then put it into the barrel. And then by law in Canada, it has to spend 3 years in an oak barrel aging to be called Canadian whiskey.
What's the difference between Canadian whiskey and American bourbon?
So bourbon has their own rules. Bourbon is an American word. They have their own rules. It has to have 51% corn in their grain mash bill to start off with. It has to be aged for a minimum of only 2 years, actually, in a brand new barrel, though. So it couldn't be used before. And it has to be aged on American turf.
So are those the primary things, the 51% corn? And I mean, you could do a 51% corn if you want.
We can.
The thing is, you theoretically could make bourbon, but you can't call it bourbon because it's not.
Correct.
Okay.
So I have a few years back. So this stems way back, actually. Shane and I were in Tennessee, and I went to Jack Daniels.
I've been.
And I actually crashed the rental car because I was so excited pulling into Jack Daniels. Long story. I got a barrel from Jack Daniels and brought it back up, and I just had it as my own personal barrel. And a few years back, I got my hands on some Tabor corn. And I said, you know what? I'm going to make a bourbon style whiskey. And I just did one barrel for a test run just to see how I would do with it. My first time using corn. And it turned out really well. It actually sold out in 1 day. I called it Old Number 7, which is paying homage to Jack Daniels.
I still have a bottle and a half at home.
I don't.
Don't you?
No, I actually, this is even worse. Canada Post, one of my last orders that I shipped out to a customer's, they lost the package somehow or broke it, or I'm not sure. And I felt horrible that she never got her bottle, so I actually sent my personal bottle to her as a well, that's what you got to do. You got to
Yeah.
take care of your customers, right?
Right.
So I actually sent it to her, and she got my last bottle of it.
Yeah.
So I don't have a bottle of that, but I did it for my birthday release. Sold out in a whole day, and people loved it so much that they kept asking, and I have more. I have about 14 or 15 barrels of it. I did the next year right after it, which will be coming of age right away, and I will have another whiskey be released that is like a bourbon, but it's not called a bourbon.
And are you going to call it the number 7 again, or are you not able to because
No,
of the barrel?
we could call it number 7. It probably will be old number 7 again. To be honest. People know what the old number 7 was. So
Right. When you say you were down in Tennessee and you went to the Jack Daniels, I brought home a bottle that was etched with and brewed especially for Terry Evans.
Yep.
And so I got that, and I still have a little bit of that. I've been savoring it. I don't know why, but I have. But there was an opportunity. When you say you bought a barrel, did you buy an empty barrel or did you buy the full?
Sorry, an empty cask. Yes.
Because there is at the Jack Daniels distillery in Tennessee, you had or at least in 2015 when I went, you had the opportunity, and I think at the time it was in the neighborhood of $6,500 to $7,000 where you could buy a barrel.
Correct.
And you would get the barrel and everything would be bottled. So the contents were all bottled. They would ship it on a pallet with the barrel to you. And I was I was this close to getting it. But of course, my wife has a better and bigger brain than me. And I mean, it would have been great to have, but
that's an identical story to mine.
Is
Because
it?
I wanted that barrel too, but my wife said we don't need that much Jack Daniels.
Yeah, it was going to be something. Yeah, the whole process of going down there, and I think you could have gone in if you purchased it. You could have had sample from 3 different batches or something like that, if I remember correctly, and then go and pick the one that you wanted, and it would come with a plaque and everything. Is that something that you've looked at? Like, aside from creating the whiskey, creating the other spirits, and everything that goes along with it, are you looking at more of a interjection of ownership with your clientele, with people? Are they requesting that same sort of thing?
They are. So actually, I've been asked so much over the past 10 years that last year I pulled. I think it's 10 total. So I let 10 people buy barrels of whiskey. I don't want to sell all of my barrels, obviously, right? Because that's what we don't want to do. But we made a unique opportunity for people to purchase a cask. They come every year and they taste it with me, and they decide how long they want to age it for. It sits here. It's under bond. And then when they are ready and they pick it, we'll proof it down together. We'll bottle it. It'll have their custom label on it, and they will have their own essential 250 bottles of whiskey out of that barrel. So I did it last year. I don't know how many barrels this year we will release, but I'm thinking probably near the end of the year we'll do the same thing. We'll release a few casks and allow people to purchase the cask. It's the experience. The just watching people come in and tasting their own whiskey now, it's just amazing. I just love it.
I credit Hansen Distillery, you and Shayna, and of course my daughter, with her ascension in the bartending world, with the creation of drink programs and whatnot and that sort of thing, with my interest in whiskeys, in bourbons, in spirits in general, and having the hands-on experience that I've had here at Hansen has made me more and more interested, made me hungry for information about it, the process and everything. It's not to the point where I think I want to start doing stuff in my backyard or in the basement or in the garage or anything like that. I would much rather.
Well, that's illegal. We wouldn't do that.
So aside from Hansen, do you have something going at all?
No. I signed an oath when we started here legally that I would not moonshine anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They make sure. Obviously, they know that we had to get experience somewhere,
mm-hmm.
but I cannot do that anymore. I believe that's jail time now these days if I get caught doing it. So
is that right?
Yes.
Well, tell me about Hansen Distillery. We're coming up on 10 years, or did we already pass the 10-year anniversary?
We are past the 10-year anniversary.
Okay,
now,
just barely.
Opened up December of 2016 is when we actually opened up.
Oh, okay. So we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary. December 2016 to December 2026.
Yes, you're right. Yes, sorry. In 9, we're in the 10th. We're in the 10th. Yes.
I was going to say, because I don't recall being invited to the
sorry. Too much whiskey already, eh? You know, it's my job is to drink whiskey every day, right? So.
Yeah. So tell me about, here we are on 111th Avenue in between 178 and 184th Street. This has been the home for Hansen Distillery as the retail spot and, you know, all of the stuff that we'll see in the back. Tell me about creating all of this and putting it all together and how much of a passion project it was for you and Shayna.
Yeah, so this was all built by us, to be honest with you, when we first started out. So we got out of the oil patch at the end of 14. I was a rig welder, and Shayna had worked. That's actually, I met my wife up in camp at Fort McMurray in Conklin. And we had a larger welding company. We sold it at the end of 14, and I went back to school for power engineering. And we actually loved the motorcycle. We were down in the States, and we ran into a bunch of craft distilleries. And being that I was a moonshiner, I really liked how small they were. We came back from the motorcycle trip, and I was actually making alcohol, and Grandma was over, and she said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I don't know. I like making alcohol. I've got to get a plant job somewhere and make gas or diesel. She's like, well, why don't you make booze instead? And I'm like, well, so I looked into it, and we're the 7th distillery in all of Alberta when we opened up in 2016. So there wasn't very many crafts. I think there's only 1 or 2 craft guys before us. And I had no clue. I just decided to just go off of how the family history was and rustic and wood. And so we built a bar. I did all the stuff in the back. Good thing I had the oil patch behind me, because all the piping and electrical and all that stuff, I built all the plants in the back, and it's just who we are.
When did Grandma and Shayna say he's a keeper at the exact same time when you were face down on the living room floor?
I don't know. I'm guessing so, yeah. So I did get called the number 1 son-in-law from my father-in-law. He had called me number 1 all the time. Made my my other brother-in-laws a little upset every once in a while, but oh well.
So what can you tell me about here? What about the bar is the thing that you just absolutely make sure that everybody knows about? There's always something that, you know, you have that certain amount of pride. I mean, you're proud of everything, every bottle that's up there, all of the things that you put together, but there's got to be one thing where you say, oh, you got to see this, or you know, check this out.
Well, it keeps evolving as time goes on. So right now, for me, this is my baby right here. I love this 7-year. The 3-year whiskey I liked. That's why I released it. The 5-year, when it got to 5, I was like, oh, this is so much better. 3 years done. We don't release the 3-year anymore. Now that I have the 7, and I've got 7 years under my belt as a real whiskey maker, like, this whiskey to me is phenomenal. So this is my pride and joy right now with on this bar, to be honest with you. I love this whiskey. This is my, now I have whiskey that's 8 and 9 that I've been tasting right now. It's better, but there's going to be a point where that whiskey is going to start tasting too woody. So I think probably in 10 to 12 years is going to be the pinnacle. So that will be, or trumping the 7, but right now the 7-year-old whiskey is mine. Are
there standard like time periods? Like, is it 3, 5, 7, 10?
No.
Or can you do an 8 or 9?
You can release whenever you want. It's up to the distiller. Age and how it ages plays a different part, which I'll talk about that when we get to the barrel stuff, but you could release anything that you wanted to.
Well, just having this morning and knowing it's the 7-year, this is a really nice sipping whiskey. It seems that it might be a shame if somebody used this for a mixed drink, but I suppose there are also advantages to having this in a mixed drink. Or is there something, do you say, okay, well, maybe the 3 is better for an X drink, or the 5 or the 7, like, which is better for sipping, or is it all personal taste?
Okay, great thing here. So as a distiller, if you poured Coke on this, you're breaking my heart, okay? But you take somebody like your daughter Kate that makes an old fashioned. Mm-hmm. If you turn a 7-year-old whiskey into an old fashioned, they're artists all on their own. They take the spirit and they elevate it. There's just something with mixologists and bartenders that it just blows my mind how they can take things and turn them into wonderful creations. And it's not that they're overpowering the whiskey at all. They're just enhancing how it all comes out and making it easier to drink. Not everybody likes drinking 53% alcohol first thing at 10 o'clock. Well, it's almost 11 now, and we're good. But an old fashioned, wonderful way to enjoy whiskey.
May 16th is World Whisky Day. When you are a part of it or create your own event, is there other organizations or like something like an overseeing sort of thing that says, hey, Hansen's doing a World Whisky Day? Or is there like a sort of a big umbrella thing that you're just doing it under, or what?
So at the end of last year, Shane and I had reached a point where we couldn't get any bigger on our own. So we reached out, and we have Bill from Hansen, Brad from Hansen. So we have a couple new investors that joined the team here. And with them helping out with the front of this part and the bigger picture of things, we've already taken a lot of steps more forward than we were before. So I couldn't wear all the hats all the time anymore. And they have given me the opportunity now to focus strictly on making wonderful spirits. And they're going to be running the big parties and the big whiskey stuff, events. Now, I'll definitely be here talking about whiskey and drinking whiskey with everybody. But the big party that's happening on World Whisky Day is because of guys like Bill and Brad and the rest of the team that's all joined together here now.
Do what you do well more often.
That's what they want me to do. They want me to just keep making good whiskey. So that's what how do we complain about that?
No,
right?
I don't suppose you can.
So,
all right. Well, I want to go and see the rest of the operation.
All right, let's go see.
Reluctantly.
This podcast is reluctantly sponsored by Wendy Campbell, realtor at blackmorerealestate.ca, serving the greater Edmonton area, proudly Canadian and locally owned. Contact Wendy at blackmorerealestate.ca. That's WENDE at blackmorerealestate.ca. Why does she not have a Y in her name? I don't know why. It's none of my business, probably none of yours too. Wendy has over 20 years of home sales experience. She has extensive knowledge of the new and previously owned home market. She can help you out with a free market evaluation of your home. And if you're looking to buy your forever home, she's got all the resources to help you with that as well. Not to mention, she's a builder partner with Rowett Homes. Wendy at blackmorerealestate.ca. WENDE at blackmorerealestate.ca.
Reluctantly.
Hey, give me a minute to tell you about Concept Clothing and Culture. CONXEPPT.com. Suits and tuxedos. And you can find them right here in Edmonton. They're handmade suits, custom tuxedos, tailored essentials, suits starting at $1,188. You choose everything. The color, the fabric, even the stuff on the inside. You know, the little pokey pocket thing that sticks out. It's amazing. It's a terrific experience. You can go through and get something as fancy as a tuxedo, or you can start with outerwear, matching sets, tailored essentials. They even do shirts, trousers, vests, and they do amazing couture for women. CONXEPPT.com. Concept, Clothing and Culture. Look your best.
Reluctantly.
All right, here we go. I know it says employees only, but I think I'm like an honorary employee here at Hansen Distillery. You can see the big logo on the floor right beside the barrels. Of course, Kris Sustrik is the rye father. There we are. Here we are in the back.
Come on in, Terry. Come on in.
See how we're doing. Go and see Kris, see what he's up to.
Good day. So I'm going to walk you guys through the process of how we make whiskey here. So today I have a few different samples of the grains that we use here at Hansen. Predominantly for our whiskey, we like to use rye, but we do use some wheat, a little bit of single malt barley, some triticale, which is actually a hybrid of a grain. It's a cross between a wheat and a rye. And then we use some corn. Now this isn't Tabor corn, that's actually just popcorn seeds, but for visual, it's corn. Okay. And the first step we do is, I used to grind grain here, to be honest with you, but it made everything dusty in here, and I would spend more time cleaning stainless than I did using it. So we get grain ground off-site, and first step we're going to do is just bust up our grain to get more surface area on it. That's number one step. So once we have ground up grain, we are going to mash in. So this is our mash tun. It's a big glorified mixing bowl. It's got a big mixer in there, and we use steam to heat it up. So we're going to fill it up probably 2/3 of the way with water, and we're going to add in our grain. And then we spend 12 hours cooking that grain. We add in some natural enzymes that break down the starch and convert that into fermentable sugars. So during the fermentation process, we add yeast, but they don't want to eat a big piece of starch. They want nice little small pieces of sugar. So what mashing in, making a big bowl of porridge, essentially is what it looks like, is converting that starch into fermentable sugars. So once the 12 hours is over, we're going to cool it down, and then we transfer it back into, we have these as our fermenting vessels here. That's where we add our yeast. We have our own couple strains of yeast that we use here. And yeast's main job is to eat up sugar and excrete alcohol. That's what yeast do. So it takes about 7 days, anywhere from 3 to 7 days, for yeast to eat up all the sugar and convert that to alcohol. So now in this tank here, Terry, I'm going to have it's 500 gallons of mash or porridge that is about 12% alcohol on the porridge itself, or the mash, but that's not good. We don't want to drink it like that. So what we need to do is distill it. So we're going to take our mash, and we're going to come to our still. Now, I had a different still before, and this is my brand new girl. You can see that she is quite big compared to what I ran before, and that's because everybody loves my whiskey so much that I have to increase volumes way, way, way up. So distillation. Distillation is taking a liquid, turning it into a gas by heat. We're heating it up, and it turns into a vapor. And then we condense it back to a liquid one time is one distillation. So you're purifying it by taking it from a liquid, heating it up, turns into a vapor, and then we condense it back into a mash, or into a liquid. So we're going to put our big bowl of porridge in here. We're going to turn on the steam. We're going to heat it up. And as it heats up, it's going to rise up through the tower. This tower has 6 plates on it, which could be used as distillation plates if you want, by going from a liquid to a vapor back to a liquid, or you can leave them open and just have a one distillation, so going from a liquid up to a vapor, and then condense back down to a liquid, and it comes out and we collect it right here. Most whiskey, you see triple pot distilled lots. The more you distill it, the less flavor of the grain is left on the alcohol at the end of it. So we don't want to over distill it. So we'll run it through our still twice. And on the second time, I actually use one plate to technically kind of get a third pot distill flavor, but it's only gone through my still twice. Okay, once that's done, we're going to collect it into a tank, and then we are ready to go to our barrels.
So that is, you said earlier, like a 9-day process?
That's about a 9-day process, yeah. So it's time you mash, ferment for 7 days, and distill, and then redistill. We're looking at 9 or 10 days.
So standing back and looking at everything, just, getting the scale of how big the tanks are, and you said this is relatively new setup compared to what you had before. I don't know why, even what you had before, it seemed to me like it was, I expected much more complicated, much more space, much more doohickeys and jazz going on. But when it comes right down to it, it's a pretty simple process, and you can see how it all evolved from something that may have happened in the mountains in
Yeah, you're right. So you could have a ton of automation added onto any distillery system that you want. You could have a push button to start, and it would do it all on its own. I'm not that type of guy. I like to be hands-on. So I take and, I'm here, alcohol is flowing out here, and I'm adjusting water flowing here to get the taste that I want. I'm adjusting the steam. I like to be hands-on, valve turning kind of guy. That's how I am. And I find that by me doing that, I'm putting my heart and love. Ooh, do I touch the damn mic? Sorry.
No, that's fine.
I'm putting my heart and soul into making the alcohol. And I think hands-on distillation exceeds what automation distillation is for quality.
So when you have a process like this going through and you basically have a physical timeline where you just know after one day it's at this state, after 2 days it's at this state, how much of it where you actually look through the window and you look inside to see what point it is? Like, are you eyeballing things? I mean, having the physical touch and steam and turning on of levers and this, do you eyeball it sometimes and say, oh yeah, that looks good?
Not by eye, honestly, by taste.
Okay.
So everything that comes off the still, I mean, if you're running it a little too hot, you can taste it. And that comes with experience, just being able to taste this flowing off here, the high proof alcohol flowing off here. So that's the worst part of my job, is that I have to taste, brand new 96% alcohol coming off the still all day long. But for me, it's all by taste. So that way I know when it ends up in the bottle that I've tasted this whole distillation run right from start to finish, and I know exactly what it tastes like. Because that's what's going to end up on all of my customers' mouths, or in my mouths, is the taste. So you want to have good taste, so it's got to be me, quality control on the taste right there.
So when it comes out of that, does it go into like you go straight into barrels or like, I don't want to rush the process.
After it comes off here, we'll collect it into a big stainless tote.
Okay.
Is essentially what we do. And then once we have enough of that alcohol, then we're going to add a little bit of water to it, because we don't want to go into the barrel at a higher percentage. There is a nice area between 60 and 70% that every distiller has their secret number that they have before it goes into the barrel. So we'll add a little bit of water to proof the alcohol down, and then it's going to go into the barrel.
So that takes the edge off of it so that it's a little more palatable, so it doesn't blow somebody's head off the first time they... Not
initially. That takes the edge off so that it reacts with the barrel. So let's go down, and we'll talk about some barrels.
Okay.
So come on down. I'm just going to get it cold here. I talk too much, so... All right, Terry, let's talk about some whiskey here. So everything that we've done over there in the distillation side has come off and it's clear. So now what we want to do is we want to barrel it. So in between that 60 and 70%, so we're going to add the water to it, get it to there. It's going to be in that big tote. I got some of the devil's cut on my hand right there. And we're going to bring it over, and just like I have here on the floor here, brand new barrels. We use brand new barrels for 90% of our whiskey. You can see there's some older barrels here. These were ex-bourbon barrels. We'll talk about that in a little bit. My barrels have a toast and char put on them where they're made in Avon, Minnesota by the barrel mill. And that's specific to what we like as a flavor profile that the barrel is going to help give to our whiskey. What I mean by that is here's a brand new barrel, or this is a brand new barrel on the inside right here. That's what it looks like initially. And they throw the flame to it on the inside. And the flame is actually covered with a cone so that they're actually toasting. It's like searing a steak is what I like to think of it as. So a 1 or 2 or a 3 for a toast. So different levels of time and temperature will give you different toast levels, which ultimately equal different flavor profiles on your whiskey. After you're done toasting it, they'll take the cone off and they're going to directly fire the inside of the barrel. They burn the inside of the barrel. So a 1, a 2. These are actually pieces right out of my barrels. This is a number 3 or an alligator char. So that's exactly what the inside of the whiskey barrel looks like on the inside. So now how these guys work, let's use Whalen's barrel here to talk about this, okay? So how this works, the whiskey goes in. These barrels that are inside the distillery right now will be going outside right away here. I rotate barrels inside and outside. I keep them here for visual, but I use Alberta's crazy extreme weather to help us age our whiskey. So what I mean by that is whiskey goes in, summertime comes along, our warehouse is not heated or air conditioned. It's going to get hot, the whiskey's going to expand, it pushes through that char layer, pushes in through the toast, and comes right to the outside of the barrel, And we actually lose about 2.5% every year of volume of this barrel to evaporation, which we call the angel share.
So the angel's share is different than what
The devil's cut, yes.
So what is that? Am I getting ahead of you here with
Well,
this,
no. So that's right next in line here is, so summertime comes along, we lose that evaporation, the whiskey's pushed out, that's the angel share. Wintertime comes along, sometimes we go from plus 30 to minus 40 in a week around here in Alberta. The whiskey's going to get super cold and it's going to pull back into the barrel. And as it does, it's going to pull some of that flavor from the toast. The char is going to smooth it out, just like carbon filtering. So every year, seasonally, expansion, contraction, you get more interaction with your barrel. While the barrel gets cold, you will see that we do get the odd drip here and there, which if it hits the ground, we call that the devil's cut. So the angels look after your barrels, so you pay your dues to them. And the devils, they always get a little bit that hit the floor, so that's the devil's cut off of that. So that's just essentially just pure straight whiskey and a little bit of sap from the actual oak itself pushing out through the barrel.
So is that something? Could you dip your finger in that? And
You
taste
can,
it?
yeah, you can absolutely. I do that every once in a while too.
And just it's pretty hard, sticky. Okay.
So I have a little bit of a little demo here. Some people have tasted them, but so I took samples every 3 months, 6 months. I took samples every 6 months when we first started aging whiskey. So 3, 6 months, 12 months, 24, 30, and 36. And you can see how much more color comes onto the whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
This is a bottle of our 3-year-old whiskey. I'm just going to hold it up like that so you can see this. It's just golden. Okay?
Yep.
So it's had 3 seasons essentially, 3 winters and 3 summers on it. You come to the 5, which I'll actually hold both up for comparison here. We can see how much more color goes on to that.
Sure.
And then I'll add on the 7. Now, just start to get more and more and more color.
Right.
So as time goes on, whiskey gets less and less into the barrel. So we have way less volume from when we first started. So by the time Whalen is 18 years old, this is going to be a half of a barrel full of whiskey.
Oh, is that right? That
Yes.
much evaporation?
We lose that much, yes. So that's why
Wow.
the older the whiskey gets, the more expensive it is because there's only a little bit left in there. So we do lose it to evaporation. That's one of the worst parts, I guess, is paying the angels. But the older it gets, the more interaction it's had with the barrel, the better it gets over time.
Mm-hmm. Is there ever a time, I think you referenced it when we were talking in the bar, is there ever a time where it just spent too much time in the barrel?
Well, I don't know for our stuff yet. That's why I taste it all the time. But I have had some whiskeys that are beyond 18 years old, and I did not prefer them. I found that the whiskey, the grain flavor got overtaken by the barrel, and it became very woody. I don't like that myself as a distiller, and I think that's some personal preference. Some people prefer the wood flavor, but I like to let the Alberta grains shine through and become married together as a good combination instead of letting one overpower the other. So this was really grain forward as a 3-year-old whiskey. And now the 5 still had a lot of the rye flavor on there, but the barrel was working. Now this to me has got a really nice balance to it. Mm-hmm. So you got an equal amount of barrel and an equal amount of grain on it.
And then let's compare it to you see these bottles of Scotch that have aged 21 years. What's the difference between Scotch and whiskey? Because Scotch is essentially whiskey.
Scotch is, yep. So that's a great question. So to be a little clearer here, and some people might not know, so Ireland makes Irish whiskey, Canada makes Canadian whiskey, bourbon is produced in America, Scotch is made in Scotland, and it all is the same process, but how it ages is essentially what changes it a little bit. So now you think about Scotland, they don't have plus 40 to minus 40. Mm-hmm. They're on sea level. So the humidity, we're really dry here in Alberta. So the humidity, the temperature fluctuations, all changes. So that 21 years in a barrel, yes, it's a long time, but they have lost less to angel share because it's very humid there. And they don't have the deep interaction because they don't have the temperature fluctuations. So we actually just became, we are becoming, I don't know if the law has been totally passed yet, but it's getting passed. Alberta whiskey is having its own designation and standard, which the government just passed. It has to be made with a certain percentage of Alberta grain. It has to use Alberta water, and it has to be aged in Alberta, giving the whiskey with our crazy dry temperature, or crazy dry humidity, and our crazy temperatures. It just sets us apart from everybody else. So Alberta's whiskey is going to be up here with the top whiskeys in the world.
If somebody is going into a liquor store and they see Northern Eyes whiskey, 3, 5, 7 year, and they see that it's spelled WHISKY, but then they look at some Jameson whiskey,
Yes,
and they see that it's spelled KEY.
correct.
Why is that? I already know the answer.
You already know the answer. So how far does that stem back? It stems back to between 2 different whiskey areas of the world, and they wanted to set themselves apart from each other. So which ones would those be?
Well, I would guess it would be Scotland and Ireland.
It was Scotland and Ireland, yes. Yeah. So using the E and not using E set Ireland apart from Scotland, so that they had a different definition of their own whiskey. So it was a battle between them back in the day, right? So that's how that all became apart. So Irish whiskey has an E, and bourbon whiskey has an E, and anybody else that I could think of?
Well, is it not because the country has an E in the name?
It's because
United
the country,
States
yes.
And Ireland,
yes.
And Scotland doesn't have an E. Canada doesn't have an E. That's why it's not spelled.
Sorry, I knew that in my mind. I should have explained that. Yes, just like you did. Yes, it's because the country has an E in it. Yes.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. I always wondered and because I go back to when I was a kid, and I seem to recall having a spelling test, and why whiskey was on a grade 4 spelling test, but I spelled it with an E, and they said it was right, but technically it's not. And I always remember that for some reason, especially over the last 10 years.
Well, it is right though in Ireland.
In Ireland, yes, right? But we're in Canada.
Yes, so yes, we don't have the E on our whiskey. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we were talking about Wayland's. There's Wayland's Barrel.
Yep.
Which was bottled on her birthday, your daughter.
Yep.
And right below,
Mr. Brock.
There's Brock.
And you'll actually see that instead of giving Brock a middle name, we gave Brock the Hansen middle name to keep the Hansen name alive. So Brockster has got the Hansen middle name.
Nice. And there's the 2 barrels, 2 for Brock, 2 for Wayland. Did you said you did 4 each or 2 each?
Two each. Yeah, two each. Yep.
4 altogether.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so here we are from the barreling aspect. With then, and you've got the aging period, the process that goes on.
Yep.
Inside, outside, angel's share, devil's share. Whatever hits the ground is devil's share. Whatever evaporates is the angel's share. And it's in there for 3, the 5, the 7 years, whatever the aging process is going to be. And then how does it go from being in that barrel to being in those bottles?
So we will take this barrel of whiskey and we will head down. All right, so for bottling wise, we do it all by hand here. I'm going to use a full bottle for the demo, but these would come empty bottles. They'd be sitting in a big pallet behind me. We would throw 4 up onto this machine here. We would hit the start button. It's probably the only piece of automation in the whole distillery. It takes about 22 seconds to fill up a bottle to 750 mils. It comes down. It slides underneath the corking machine. This is brand new. I love this machine. Up until last year, at the end of last year, I pushed all these corks in by hand.
I pushed a lot of those corks
in
by hand.
You remember that?
Yeah.
That's this is a very wonderful upgrade into our distillery here. They'll get slapped up onto the little label machine here. We have a couple different ones. It will roll on the front label and the back label. They'll come down. This is where Terry would take over here, and he would put the top strap on and the little tamper-proof seal, And then the heat shrinker, which is right here. This is an upgrade too because we had a fire with the other one. It just drops down and that shrinks it on. And then we do all of our barrels that we release, we document. So this is the first barrel of number 7. So I like to do single barrel releases instead of blending all of our whiskeys together. And this is my personal one. So this is actually 0013. But each bottle in each barrel is numbered individually. They get 12 are done. They'd go back into a box and then they go onto the pallet.
Onto the pallet and off to the stores that sell spirits and liquor stores, and then out front to the bar where we were sitting earlier. What was the process for you to go from, hey, we're going to open a distillery, to having your spirits and other products in Liquor Depot or whatever liquor store? Because you're all over the province now.
Yeah, that's a procedure, to be honest with you. I know how to make alcohol. I'm not a salesman. So we had to do, up until last year, actually, I delivered everything myself on one of my days that I wasn't distilling. I would take and do all the deliveries, but it's a lot of door knocking and to get your stuff into places. And then once people start tasting it, then they can start requesting it at their liquor stores. So if you have a liquor store that's close to you and you want to try some Hansen stuff and you aren't able to make it over to the distillery, you can ask them to bring it in, and then they'll call us and we'll deliver it over to them. And that's how that goes.
You talk about you are a distiller, you're a whiskey maker, and I know there's, aside from getting your products into liquor stores and into places where people, I don't know if it's Grand Cache, Grand Prairie, Edson, Hinton, wherever the Hansen products are available, there's all of that process, but there's also a lot of government regulation that comes into play when you're in this business, because alcohol, the sin tax, targets, and all of the things that go with that. But there was recently something that happened in Alberta with the government that was kind of beneficial, was it not, for the whiskey?
So getting the Alberta designation was step 1. And then, so the main liquor through AGLC, Alberta Liquor and Gaming Commission, they use Connect Logistics. And Connect Logistics is what the bar owner in Edson calls up and says, hey, I need 10 cases of Budweiser and 2 cases of Hansen whiskey, and they load up the whole pallet and they deliver to them all at once. So that is mostly how all liquor stores and bars and restaurants order alcohols, through Connect. And up until just recently, if we went into Connect, we had to pay an outrageous amount of tax to be into there. And so now the government has done some working. I don't know what the whole deal is about it yet, but I believe that we're going to start to be able to use Connect Logistics now, so that we can craft guys could be reached across Alberta now way easier than before.
It's a much more difficult thing for a craft distillery compared to something that is worldwide. Your margins are smaller, your batches are smaller, your staff is smaller, everything is smaller, from marketing to, like you said, sales. Yep. And you're delivering it yourself for the most part for the first basically decade of Hansen Distillery. The government backing off on this is obviously beneficial.
More realizing that they need to work with Albertans to be able to have small businesses succeed these days. With everything being so tight the way it is, and fuel being at $2.09 for a liter of diesel this morning, we need every little penny we can get. So any help that we can get with red tape reduction from the Alberta government is super beneficial to all people across all sectors. So I'm very happy that the Alberta government is taking the time to work with the small businesses and the small craft guys so that we can get this into more people's hands.
Yeah. World Whisky Day coming up on the 16th, on the May long weekend for 2026. Lots of plans here at Hansen Distillery from noon till 5. I'll be on hand. You'll be on hand. I know Ryan Jesperson is going to be here.
Yep.
I believe Sierra.
Lisa and Sierra, I believe, yes.
I saw recently that they were on a little tour here at Hansen Distillery. After World Whisky Day has come and gone, and we've gone through all of that, there is a real determination as to what is to come at Hansen Distillery. Is there anything that you can talk about leading into what is going to happen in the next decade?
I can only tell a little bit of things that come out. One thing that I will say, I'll just release it now, I'll just tell everybody now, is that I have 7-year that's sitting, and I'll show you guys right up here. So I call them finishing casks. And you guys will see up here, it's got blue on it because it's special for me. That was an ex-sherry cask. So that held sherry in it before. And I really enjoy being able to use finishing casks to add a different aspect to the whiskey. So I've taken that 7-year-old Northern Eyes, and we've finished that off for a few months up there. I think, when did it go in? April? Oh, so it's going to be it just is over just a year now. So I'm going to go a few more months, and that sherry flavor is going to impart on that whiskey. So I do have lots of special casks to have single small batch releases of stuff coming up in the future. And that's my favorite part, is doing the finishing casks to have small batch releases for everybody.
And then there's the seasonal stuff. We just passed Easter. So
just past Easter, yeah. We did many eggs. That was this. Oh, I got a bottle right here. Cream liqueur, many eggs. Obviously, YAG is Edmonton. We did take these little round chocolate candies that have a hard shell on them that I cannot say that name legally. And I soaked them in some vodka and got that real flavor and added a little bit more chocolate, obviously, to that. And these taste just like that bag of Easter candies that we all enjoy every year. That they just go down like nothing. And this is the same thing. So lots of seasonal stuff. We do have, so my assistant, which is becoming a distiller too herself now, is Cassidy. She is going to be releasing her gin series, which we did complete, and I have not had my hands on this at all. This is a made by her series, and Cassie's going to start releasing a few different gins every year. She's an amazing gin maker. She's got a wonderful palate to it, and this is all for her on her own. That is just strictly made by ladies in the industry, and I cannot wait for her gin to be released here. Mother's Day, that's actually going to be coming out.
Is that right?
That is right.
So you got gin coming. I know. So do you do like a fall thing, a pumpkin spice, and then Christmas? And
yes.
Is that on the horizon?
Pumpkin spice lattes, yeah, they'll be coming out. Christmas this year. I have done chocolate mint in the past and mulled cranberry. I do have a few tricks up my sleeve with working with some other new flavors that are just Christmassy. I will probably bring back the gingerbread cream liqueur. That is like a crazy seller. I sell thousands and thousands of bottles of gingerbread cream liqueur.
Then there's the boozy brew, the coffee liqueur.
Yes. So we were using a big brand before for lots of our cocktails out front. And I was just like, why are we using this all the time? I should make this. So we used a local coffee maker out of Edmonton here, High Horse Coffee. I took his coffee and essentially made my version of Kahlua, is what it is. So local coffee maker and some simple syrup in our vodka, and we have brewed and boozy.
So we spent the first part of the podcast at the bar talking about the history, the legacy, the origins of the Hansen family and Hansen Distillery, and how things have gotten to this point as we get ready to celebrate 10-year anniversary of Hansen being on 111th Avenue in Edmonton. This part is the part that people don't generally see as often, but they can see on tours. But you also have classes and that sort of thing. Is that something that's continuing, or is
Yep, there's always different stuff coming out. We're working on different things all the time. So we do a gin making class. We do cocktail nights here. We're just playing with a test run of doing a whiskey sampling kind of tour that we're going to do here. So always on our website at hansendistillery.com, you will find different events that are getting popped up everywhere. We started bringing in live music for people to enjoy. Just tons of wonderful things since Bill at Hansen and Brad at Hansen have popped into the deal here, and I'm loving it.
All right. I think our work is done here, and it's time to get back to the bar and finish that
7-year-old whiskey? Well, we can do that. And I got a delivery of some more barrels coming, and we will just keep filling up more barrels. So thanks for supporting Hansen Distillery, and enjoy World Whisky Day. Can't wait to see you guys.
Reluctantly.
This podcast reluctantly sponsored by ThompsonMortgages.com. If you are set to renew your mortgage in 2026, reach out to Thompson Mortgages first. TimberBuiltHomes.ca. Homes and cottages, recreational dwellings, and more at TimberBuiltHomes.ca. Concept Clothing and Culture. Amazing custom-made clothes for men and for women at CONXEPPT.com. And Wendy Campbell, realtor at blackmorerealestate.ca. If you would like to list your home, or if you're searching for your forever home, email Wendy at blackmorerealestate.ca. WENDE at blackmorerealestate.ca.
Reluctantly.